Welcome to the Old Mac Gang podcast, or OMG, a podcast with a panel of longtime, seasoned Mac Apple users who want to discuss the most relevant apps and services to age-seasoned users. I'm Marty, an Apple enthusiast and podcaster. I'm a 67-year-old age-seasoned user who's collected a great group of friends to talk about Apple and seasoned citizens and the kind of technology we're interested in. Today we're going to be talking about more or less the kinds of streaming services that we use, or should I say, where do we get our classic movies and videos from? Not necessarily, and some of that includes streaming services, but that's our topic for tonight. Let's find out who we have with us today in the show.
I'm Gary Shirk. I live in Cleveland, Ohio. And just today, I'm 88 years old last month. And today I upgraded to OS 26 Beta 5 without any issues, following the lead of Peter and Marty.
Hey,
Chris?
I'm Chris. I'm a 78-year-old retiree in Tucson, Arizona. I've been around the Mac since 1984, done a bunch with user groups in Dallas and Austin, and now in Tucson. And really enjoy all my Apple equipment and services, and happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Peter. I'm 72 and from Bay Village, Ohio. I'm here to learn from and share with others, in particular, this old Mac gang, and of course, everyone who's watching or listening.
And Bob is off tonight. He's got a board meeting for his Mac user group in Tucson, and so he's not going to be with us tonight. I'm Marty. I've been here for a while. As I said, 67-year-old user, do a lot of podcasts, and am involved with a lot of different kind of equipment. And it's sort of my hobby right now of things that I do. I just wanted to check if anybody is excited or is interested or is thinking about the fact that there was I don't know if it was an announcement, but it's one of those things where they searched through documents, as reporters will do, and found that in some German document there was a statement about there being an iPhone announcement on Tuesday, September 9th, then allowing you to order on the 12th of September with delivery or pickup on the 19th of September. Now, they're talking about the iPhone 17 series. And the series won't just have a regular iPhone Pro. They're going to have the iPhone Air, the ultra-thin iPhone, Apple Watch 11, Apple Watch Ultra 3, and Apple Watch SE. Any of this stuff interest you guys? Peter?
It interests me. I mean, I'm hoping for a new phone, but I mean, I kind of knew when it was going to be. So, I mean, people who are going to be there on day one probably weren't startled by this news.
Yeah, I immediately stuck dates on my calendar just so I would have them locked in. Chris?
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate hearing the date because I'll put it down on my calendar right away just to make sure I don't schedule something goofy like a haircut or a doctor's appointment. I'm not really in the market for a phone. I've got the 16 Pro Max. I could be in the market for a new watch as long as it has the blood oxygen stuff, which has been held up, and I haven't heard any indication that they've settled that. So it would be very nice if that happened.
Yeah, I am curious about the Ultra in terms of whether it will have the blood oxygen in it. Usually I'm on top of these things right away, but I'm feeling a little less compulsive around it because I'm not sure what they could add to watches to make them more useful for me, unless there was like a glucose sensor or some additional things with heart. I just can't see myself feeling the need to upgrade. Now that might change on September 9th, but at this point, there's nothing compelling. I am also don't know what I'm going to do about phones because I've got a 16E and I've got a 16 Pro Max. And I'm really tempted about the Air. I'd like to, if there's going to be any model that I'd get, it would probably be the Air, only to try out the form factor and see what it's like. I don't do a lot of photos. I'm not reliant on a lot of things. I don't do gaming on my phone typically, so 120 gigahertz refresh is not going to mean that much to me. So I'm just not sure about what it's going to look like, but September 9th, I'll start to think about it and make some decisions around it. We have a link in the show notes that will take you to the article about the German carrier sources talking about the iPhone announcement and then ideas of when it'll roll out. It comes from Mac Rumors. Anything else on this? All right. Well, we have a bunch of resources that are available for you to look at, and these are all different kinds of websites like Pluto and Shout TV and Roku's classic film time connection, the Criterion Collection, Fandor, also MGM Plus, and Mubi, which I had never heard of. I think Peter put that one up. Canopy, which I've heard of when we get around to talking about it. Hoopla, Paramount Plus, also Disney Plus, and then Amazon Prime, and then a couple of others that we'll talk about as we get to it in the show. So my first question for everybody, and I think Gary starts the rounds on these today, is do you have a preferred streaming site and for classic movies and TV shows? So the things that maybe are there that we grew up generationally. And there's plenty of streaming sites for current stuff. I have mentioned a few of them in here, but basically some of the classic stuff that you don't typically see.
Well, I said I don't watch classic movies at home on TV. I seem to gravitate to a local theater, or recently the orchestra has been doing classic movies with the orchestra playing the soundtrack. And I've been buying Apple TV movies, and recently when I checked with Peter with a composer, he turned me on to a Japanese filmmaker named Hayao Miyazaki. And but I also have, that's kind of where I get it. Later on the questions, I'll mention some of the sources that I go to. Chris?
I don't really watch a lot of classic stuff either. I'm sort of into the modern day classics. I own some movies like Lawrence of Arabia, and yes, I own Casablanca. You know, who doesn't? And but I watch a lot of Amazon Prime. PBS Passport sometimes has some really interesting content. Hulu as well, and a lot of YouTube. And I also sometimes watch Curiosity Stream and Nebula. Though those are both interesting streaming sites in terms of documentaries and stuff. But, you know, these days, I just don't get around to watching a lot of that stuff. My big binge is actually Duolingo and doing language stuff. That's what I really enjoy doing these days.
Classic movies for me might be anything that's more than 10 years old. Otherwise, I'd consider it contemporary. But they're often foreign and independent films. So my go-to service for these is Criterion, not only for its splendid collection, very deep collection, but for the many extras it offers. I really am willing to watch a movie multiple times if I really love it. So director's commentaries, deleted scenes, alternate edits, interviews with the cast and crew. I'm into all of that kind of stuff, and Criterion will give you that uh, as well. Uh, and it also groups movies into collections, and these collections that are themed and change from month to month help me discover new favorites. Now, Mubi, which was mentioned by Marty, is my service for, I guess, what I'd call future classics. It emphasizes things much more contemporary, things that are novel and bleeding edge areas of cinema. And anyone who loves film should grab their 7-day trial and watch two films that I'd recommend: Riddle of Fire and The Fall. Uh, Two very recent, unique movies that'll redefine what film might mean to you. So they might hook you. Yeah, give it a try.
I am a TCM, Turner Classic Movie addict, and each morning I get up, look at what my work schedule is going to be, determine what portions of my work schedule I can have something going on in the background that's not going to disturb me too much. If there's a movie on that I really want to see, Casablanca was on today, by the way, guys. That's something that I will switch on and get pieces of here and there in between work and doing such. So for all of those movies that were pre-1970, it's Turner Classic Movies. And they have some ones that go back into the 20s and the 30s that I have never really seen. And that's always of interest. They'll have you either have artists or directors that I'm particularly interested in. And they generally have a theme for the day. Like, what was it today? Claude Rains was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Which is why Casablanca was in the round with that. Peter has mentioned Criterion. Criterion has got some really great films in it, and is a really good service if you want to explore sort of more classic and art films. And I do like the Criterion collection and going through and seeing it. It's a bit of a pricey sort of stream to get, but it's also got some really good things in it. Then there's general like old TV shows that I grew up with as a kid or I suffered with as a young adult on Cozy TV. And I'm trying to think of the things that are on Cozy TV. Well, first of all, Columbo's on Cozy TV. They generally have a weekend full of Columbo. And also the other things that I other shows that are on there, just different types of mysteries and different types of classic television shows. I'd like to say the Nanny's on there. I'm not a Nanny fan, but they play a lot of Nanny. To give you an idea of sort of the genre and time of the shows that they have on there. So those are sort of my three places for classic kinds of films. I also own a lot of films. I buy a lot of films because I consider that's kind of an investment in the art in and of itself. So I have that. Well, I guess I should say I rent a lot of films because I have bought them and they're in part of my Apple TV grouping, and I get to watch them whenever I want to watch them. The 5 other members on my family plan get to watch them. I have a nephew who's on my family plan, and he's a cinephile. And, when we finally got him on Apple TV, it's like, let me put you on my family account. Here's 600 films for you that you can play with. And he's enjoyed that. And when I see him probably once every couple of weeks. We talk about what he's watched recently. But he likes kind of 60s and 70s films, and that's kind of fun for both of us. Chris?
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't heard of it, the Internet Movie Database, which is imdb.com, is a great place to look up old movies, to get casts and actors and directors and all of that, as well as where you can stream them or rent them or buy them.
And Peter, you have another source that you use too for movies. What is the app?
Oh, the one for looking at where that you can find them. It's called Just Watch, and that
Yeah.
also will tell you where you might get them. And there's an iPhone one, since I'm often have my iPhone in my hand when I'm watching the movie, is called Call Sheet, and it accesses and scrapes from Internet Movie Database and other places, and will show you instant sort of information linking an actor you recognize, what else they've been in, and all that kind of stuff with a very nice interface.
So, question number 2 is, what's your favorite classic shows to watch? And I'll start with Gary, but I think Gary says pass and go to Chris. So let's go to Chris.
Well, random stuff. I have been known to watch Miami Vice on Hulu, and they're one of my most favorite shows from that whole series was the one called Duty that featured the lieutenant, and I forget his name. Olmo, I think is his name, and it has it's a really well done show. It's my favorite from that series, and it's got some interesting samurai work in it too, so hence the name. I watched a lot of documentaries too.
Yeah, for me, the series that are my favorites are the ones I'm watching right now. So what I'm currently watching are 3 classics. First, Twin Peaks, the David Lynch's Knock It Out of the Park series, and I think there's a film or 2 and a lot of specials. That's all on Mubi. Another one that I'm going through at the moment is called Homicide: Life on the Streets. That's the series that David Simon made before he did The Wire. It's filled with surprising guests, and despite being very gritty and realistic, there are no curse words. It was a broadcast TV show before curse words were allowed, and it's very interesting to see how they can convey a curse word without actually saying it. I mean, that's almost a treat in and of itself. And the final one I'm watching, a short run of 18 episodes, was a series called Freaks and Geeks. Episodes of authentic high school nerd fun. And a bonus in that is that each episode sort of focuses in the background and incidental music on a particular period musical artist of that time. And you can watch Freaks and Geeks on either Amazon Prime or Paramount.
You know, Peter, I kind of thought Freaks and Geeks would have been past your you were past the generation of Freaks and Geeks. No offense. That's sort of my nephew. My nephew's in his 30s or 40s. That's kind of his generation when, he watched Freaks and Geeks when he was younger. It's interesting that you had that on your list.
Well, you're right. Hungry Freaks Daddy was what Frank Zappa was playing when I was in that age period. But once a freak, your freak flag flies forever. So, there you go.
Well, my favorite classic selections are, and unfortunately, I think the only place you can get this is on Acorn TV, where you get the complete collection of Perrault. And I mean the one with David Suchet. That is just the classic Perrault as far as I'm concerned, and it ran for many seasons. Now, somewhere around here, I have a box set of all of those that either I gifted myself or someone gifted me, and I had ripped all of those using Handbrake and put them on a Plex server and had them all available for me to watch through Plex. But frankly, it's just so much more convenient to be able to do it by having it on the Acorn TV app. So Acorn also has a lot of other great British television, a lot of them procedurals that are interesting if you're interested in kinds of police and police type stories. I mentioned already Cozy TV in Colombo. I also had a collection of Colombo that I had ripped somewhere and put together through all the seasons of Colombo. I think the equivalent to Colombo nowadays, if you want to see a show that is parallel to Colombo, is a show that is called Poker Face. And is it on Paramount? I can't remember what streaming services. It's on.
I thought Hulu,
sure.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah. But it's a great show, and it follows that sort of how do you get caught, not who done it, because you know kind of who done it right from the beginning. And then I watched some YouTube TV, so there's things that I can find on YouTube TV that I really enjoy and like. And one of those I'll mention ahead of time that I was saving for later on the show is a show called Taskmaster. And the concept of the show, you can go on YouTube TV and you can just search for the Taskmaster channel, and you can watch past episodes of it. And they get 5 comedians together, and they are given the task of certain types of tasks that they have to do, and they all wind up doing it independently of each other, and they win points for the person who does it the most correct. But it's very funny. It's extremely funny. Peter, have you seen that one?
I haven't, but I just wanted to mention 2 things. One, that Poker Face is on Peacock. I looked it up.
Okay.
It's just that quick to use Just Watch. And hearing all of these streaming services, I think, my bank account is going to be empty before I can blink. But I will tell you that our practice is, if we're watching, we're watching Acorn right now. We're subscribed. We're watching Brokenwood Mysteries. When we're done with that, we might turn that off, turn on BritBox, or turn on something else and watch a series there. So you can be planful and careful and not just bleed money.
Yeah. Some people do this. They will go in, they'll binge watch stuff for a couple of months and then shut it down. And, there are some shows that I watch. Paramount, I've got all sorts of issues with in terms of the politics around that station and the acquisition. But they do Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And, so maybe for 10 weeks I'll have to get Paramount and then wait for another 2 years and sign up for it again when the next version comes out, next season comes out of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Not a classic, but I guarantee it will be. So last question, great sources that you found for video entertainment. Gary.
Well, I have Amazon Prime, which I found, Apple TV, and then I've watched some movies on Canopy, which I get from the local library. Chris?
Yeah, that's a great source, is the local library. Here in Tucson, they've got an amazing collection of videos that you can, just check out the DVDs and stuff. And they have online stuff and audiobooks and stuff as well. I'm a fan of Foundation on Apple TV. I didn't read the book, so I'm sort of somewhat liberated from that. Shogun on Hulu, I did read the book on Shogun, and I really, really liked the TV production. It was fantastic. And I'm currently watching 100 Years of Solitude on Netflix, the Gabriel Garcia Marquez book. I'm also a sucker for Silk Road documentaries. I've watched about half a dozen different ones, and they're all interesting and they're all a little bit different. Um,
Hmm.
so I think I mentioned Curiosity Stream and Nebula already. Um, so yeah, there's great stuff out there. You know, it's sort of like so many things to watch and so few nights
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm going to be the third vote for your local library, and Canopy was what I wrote down. Canopy is provided through libraries everywhere, and it's a very rich collection with a lot of interesting and unique films. And they send out an email once a week that highlights things, and that's a good way to sort of find your way around what they've got. Our library also provides movies and other online media through a thing called Hoopla, and also through a couple of services under the broad umbrella of O'Reilly, which has all of the old Linda tutorial videos, which are still being made and updated, and a lot of other things like the great courses, if you and tutorials on different subjects that you might want to educate you on. Those are just great. And of course, as also mentioned, the library has DVDs and Blu-rays, and there are lots of things that are just not licensed for streaming. And you'll be pleased to find that a lot of times when you look at your library, they've got it and you can go watch it. So I recommend a library as many times as I can.
I use Canopy. I'm still teaching, and often there are films and things connected to Canopy that our university has an account with, and they will add in videos that I need for certain classes and such. And so, yeah, Canopy is something I'm familiar with. I do, occasionally look and see there are some other just general great commercial films that are part of Canopy where people can go, and definitely documentaries and other sorts of series. Right now, Apple TV Plus is where I'm finding a lot of great material to listen to, and also YouTube. I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber, and the reason I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber is because the commercials interrupt my watching. They just interrupt the whole flow process. And also, if I'm showing a bit in my classroom, the commercials come in and interrupt the learning process as part of it. The university doesn't have paid subscriptions for YouTube, so if I'm in a classroom and I want to show a YouTube video, I've got to log on with my own YouTube account, which is premium, and then I can skip all the commercials. If I don't, and I just use the university computer, then I'm going to wind up the whole process is going to be broken up with different commercials, and that's kind of sad. I mentioned Taskmaster also on YouTube. You can find it simply by searching Taskmaster. I guess it runs on Channel 4 BBC, and then it's posted like a week later on YouTube as part of YouTube. And you don't have to have a premium account to see it, but that's another source for me on YouTube. And then Twitch also has some streaming options. I think Peter is a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I don't know if Chris or Gary have heard about it. It is a comedy group that basically plays old movies and turns down the sound or talks over the dialogue with all sorts of inspired humor. So it takes like old science fiction classics, I wouldn't call them classics, but old science fiction films, for example, and then they just have people doing dialogue. Well, they have the actors in it doing dialogue on top of the movies, and it's pretty funny. My son and I, well, of course, I got my family turned into MST3K fans years ago, and the kids were young and they would watch it with me, and it's all clean, good, and fun. So that was another reason why it was good with kids. But they started, when the show ended, they started doing movie theater kinds of things. So like they go to this one movie theater in Nashville and they do live shows, which you can go to your local movie theater and see streamed to it. And it's a completely different watching experience when you're sitting in a room with about 40 other people, because you don't laugh at everything, but somebody laughs at everything. And so the room is just like constantly laughing and people are shouting things out at the screen. And it's kind of a little bit participatory, but but it's a whole theater experience to be able to do it. So when it comes around, I try to get Will and I to find a night where we can go over and see a live, quote, live version of MST3K in the theaters. So, any other comments for the show and for the topic? All right. Well, then let's close for the time. Email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us tailor programs for you, age-seasoned users like us who want to continue using our Macs and make our lives more enjoyable. All of these links that we talked about are in our show notes and will be available on the web. You can find them in the video portion of the show. If you're watching it on YouTube, you just pull down the more information area on the show and you'll get a list of all of the different types of streaming services that we talked about and some additional pieces that we'll put in there for your enjoyment. If you're listening to us on the podcast, then you just go to the podcast notes that accompany the episode and you'll be able to find the links in there too. Our website is thepodtalk.net. And so we're going to wrap it up for this episode. Our next live episode will be on Wednesday, August 13th at 9 p.m. through YouTube, where you can watch this crew at youtube.com/@oldmacgang. You can always pick up the podcast or video later. If you miss a live show, please share it with your friends and other Mac user groups. Our music bed is by Philip Gross, Marrakesh, courtesy of the Free Music Archive, part of the Creative Commons. More information about the podcast and others can be found at the podtalk.net website. Thanks to the group, Chris, Peter, Gary, and in absentia, Bob, who's usually with us. And thank you for being part of the Old Mac Gang. See you next time.